So there we go, raising money and awareness for Beirut. Time for business. Kate Moody joins us. Starting in the United States, where tens of thousands of workers have found themselves out of a job.
Mark, just a day after Disney announced it was cutting 28,000 jobs, American and United Airlines are beginning to lay off some 32,000 staff members. Federal aid for the aviation sector ran out at midnight, and with it, the condition that payroll remain intact. Congress has so far failed to agree any new funding for the sector. With air traffic still about 70% below normal levels, airlines have said they have no choice but to shed jobs, but that they could recall their employees if lawmakers come up with more financial support. But that could take time, as Republicans and Democrats remain divided over who to target and how.
There's a lot of debate about whether airline workers should continue to be singled out as a work group deserving of a focused, single-minded aid. There is a feeling that airline workers may not necessarily deserve the support, that really what's needed is something broader that will aid more Americans, all Americans who are out of work for no fault of their own because of the effect of this pandemic.
Meanwhile, the number of Americans claiming unemployment benefits decreased slightly last week. 837,000 new claims were recorded by the Labor Department. That's 36,000 fewer than the previous week. It is still well above pre-pandemic levels. California has suspended its processing of new applications for 2 weeks to combat fraud, and that may have slightly distorted Thursday's data. Well, data due to be released on Friday is expected to show the unemployment rate dropping slightly to 8.2% in what will be the last monthly jobs report before the November election. Earlier, I spoke to Elizabeth Crowfoot, senior economist at the Conference Board in New York, about the state of America's labor market.
It's interesting that we were at nearly a 15% unemployment rate in April, down to 8.4% in August, and a lot of those low-hanging fruit of job gains have already been picked over the summer. These businesses are really staying afloat because of the historic fiscal stimulus, right? Those PPP loans. Also, consumers that were benefiting from supplemental on insurance payments, for example, those extra $600 a week, and also direct payments from the government. So they were really spurring additional consumption. Now that that fiscal aid has expired for both businesses and consumers, they're not going to be able to spend as much money, which does not bode well for businesses. They're probably going to be seeing increased pressure to, make ends meet. Many of these businesses, especially restaurants, have very small margins. They're not going to be able to continue at 90% capacity even. So they're going to have to continue to cut their payrolls in order to survive, if not completely close shop, especially as the weather turns and they're not able to continue operations, socially distant operations outdoors.
Let's check in on the day's trading action now. Wall Street has closed in the green. The Dow Jones losing steam towards the end of the session, ending only just above the flat line there as hopes for progress on Capitol Hill begin to fade a little bit. Tech stocks did lead gains there, the Nasdaq closing up just under 1.5%. We saw a mixed close for the major European indices, just the DAX closing below the flat line in Frankfurt. Bayer shares plunged 13% after the German pharmaceutical giant lowered its guidance for the rest of the year. Unemployment across the Eurozone, meanwhile, increased slightly in August to 8.1%. A report by the British government says Huawei has failed to improve its security standards enough to be used there. The board, which includes officials from the intelligence community, said the Chinese tech giant could only provide limited assurance that all risks to UK national security could be mitigated in the long term. In July, the UK backtracked on a decision to allow Huawei to play a limited role in its upcoming 5G infrastructure. The US has been encouraging all of its allies to ban the company altogether. Huawei has repeatedly denied allegations that it could pass sensitive data on to the Chinese government. Ireland's top court has ruled that the rolls used by sandwich chain Subway contain too much sugar to be considered bread. A franchise had appealed for a tax refund, saying that as a staple food, its bread should not be subject to VAT. But 5 judges determined that the dough has a sugar content of 10% of the weight of the flour and should therefore face the same 13.5% tax as more indulgent products like ice cream and popcorn. Mark, I don't know if it's quite enough sugar to be officially classed as a dessert. Subway, of course, insists that its bread is really just bread.
Kate, thank you very much indeed. World problems, world solutions, Subway's buns. There we go. Kate with the business, thank you very much. Great to see you.